Good day, learners. I am Dr. Adekunle Babatunde. Today, we'll be treating elementary theory of demand and supply. The course code is DC111 Introductory Economics 1. At the end of this study, you should be able to define demand, list the factors that affect demand and supply, explain the laws of demand and supply. We should be able to explain demand and supply schedules and also demand and supply curve. At the end of this lecture, you should be able to highlight the difference between the shift in demand and change in demand. Finally, you should be able to explain the concept of equilibrium. So the first one, definition of demand. What is demand? Demand can be defined as the quantity of goods a consumer or a buyer is willing and able to buy or purchase at a given price and time. Emphasis should be placed on the willingness and also on ability to pay. For demand to be effective, the buyer must have the willingness to purchase that particular good or service and must have the capacity to pay. What are the factors that affect demand? First is the price of the particular good or service. Also, we have the income or wealth of the consumer or buyer. Thirdly, we have the prices of related goods, and these related goods could be either substitute goods or complementary goods. By substitute goods, we mean that goods that can be exchanged for the other. For example, using beverages, you may either choose to buy or purchase Bonvita in place of Milo, while complementary goods are goods that you cannot consume one without consuming the other. For example, our popular bread and butter. So the prices of these goods would affect the demand for a particular good. What am I saying here? If there's increase in the price of in the price of bread, definitely there is tendency that there will be an increase in the price of butter for complementary goods. But for a substitute good, if there's an increase in beverage A, there is tendency that there will be an increase in the demand for beverage B because of the price difference. Also, another factor that affects demand is the number of consumers or population. We also have the consumer preference or taste. Then finally we have weather. We can represent these factors in algebraic form. It's a quantity demand is the function of the price of the particular good. You can say price of related goods, weather, taste, consumer preference, income or wealth. This is a basic, this is one of the basic functions of factors of demand. Also, going forward, we have to define what the law of demand states. Law of demand states that the higher the price of a good or service, definitely there is going to be a reduction in the quantity demanded of that particular good or service. This is a rational theory. A rational being with a fixed income would rather purchase a particular good, purchase less of a particular good if there's increase in the price of that particular good. Let us define what demand schedule is. A demand schedule is a tabular representation of the relationship between the price and quantity demanded of a particular good or service. Demand curve is a graphical representation of the relationship between price of a good or service and the quantity demanded of such good or service. Then there is need for us to differentiate between change in demand and change in quantity demanded. For change in quantity demanded, there is going to be a movement along the demand curve that occurs as a result of change in the goods price, where other factors that affect demand remains constant. What are we saying here? For change in quantity demanded, other factors are assumed to be constant, but price is the only variable factor. While change in demand means that all other factors, all other non-price factors are variable, while price remains constant. And there is going to be what we call a shift of the entire demand curve in this scenario. And in this shift, it could be either inward or outward, depending on the quantity of the quantity demanded. Then supply. What is supply? Supply is the opposite of demand. We can define supply as the quantity of goods and services a seller is willing and able to sell at a particular price and time. This is totally different from demand. Demand looks at it from the angle of the buyer or purchaser, while supply looks at it from the angle of the seller. What are the factors that affect supply? First, we have production cost. By production cost, it will determine whether there's going to be an increase in quantity supplied of a particular good or quantity or reduction in the quantity supplied. Also, we have technology. Technology is talking about a combination of the factors of production. How the factors of production are combined. That is what technology defines, and it's going to affect quantity supplied of a particular good or service. Another factor is the number of sellers. That is, in a competitive environment, that will also affect the quantity supplied of a particular good. Also, expectation. It could be price expectation, policy expectation, instability. All of these could also affect the quantity supplied of a particular good. Just as we did for demand, we could have an algebraic function like this: quantity supplied of a particular good, as we said, thus cost of production, that's one. We could have technology, number of sellers, and finally, we say expectation. So this is an algebraic representation of factors that affect supply, while this is an algebraic representation of the factors that affect demand. Law of supply. Just in contrast with law of demand, law of supply states that a seller is willing to sell more of a particular good or service as the price of that good, as long as the price of that good increases, and vice versa. That is, a seller will be willing to sell less of a particular good or service as the price reduces. Also, supply schedule, just as we defined earlier for demand, is a table showing the relationship between quantity supplied and price, while supply curve is a graphical representation of the relationship between price of the particular good and the quantity demanded of that particular good. Also, we go to the concept of equilibrium. Equilibrium here defines a concept where the quantity demanded of a particular good equates the quantity supplied of the same good. What are we saying here? That is, that there comes a point or a price where the quantity supplied will be equal to quantity demanded. Thus, for easy representation, we say quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied for equilibrium. One thing we should take note, for demand, we have what we call an inverse relationship in demand, and it could be represented for quantity demanded. We have A minus BP, where QD here is the quantity demanded, P is the price, and A is the autonomous demand. Autonomous demand. By autonomous demand, we mean even if the price is zero, there will be a particular quantity that will be demanded of that particular good or service. While for supply, we have a positive relationship, that is A plus B plus BP, where P here is price, A here is the autonomous supply, B is the coefficient of the price. And to buttress the concept of equilibrium, we say quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. We could equate these two equations there. We say for equilibrium, we have A equals to, A minus BP equals to A plus BP. By the time you solve it, you're going to make P the subject of the formula, and you get the equilibrium price. Well, we've come to the end of this lecture. And in form of summary, we've been able to define what demand is, what supply is. We've been able to determine the factors that affect both demand and factors that affect supply. We've been able to define the laws of demand and law of supply. And we concluded with the concept of equilibrium. Thank you very much.